Diet culture and toxic wellness trends can make you feel like you're at war with your own body, constantly doubting yourself and chasing impossible standards. But it doesn't have to be that way. I'm Kathy Salata, a recovered anorexia survivor and educator, and this is Freedom to Nourish. Each week we'll have real conversations, share stories, and give you tools to finally make peace with food and respect your body. No more food rules, no more body shame, just the freedom to be yourself again. Welcome to Freedom to Nourish, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to make peace with food, your body, and most importantly, yourself. I'm your host, Kathy Salata, educator, advocate, and someone who knows firsthand that healing begins when we stop fighting ourselves and listen within. My heart would whisper and my head would scream. That's what I used to say back in the day. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. I wish I met her years ago, Michelle. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist whose work is deeply rooted in authenticity, reflection, and liberation. Michelle's journey is a powerful reminder that healing is not linear. It's a process of rediscovering who we are beneath the noise of not enough. After studying psychology, life took her on an unexpected path of travel, growth, and self-discovery. Through this journey, she found her calling, helping women navigate identity shifts, self-doubt, and burnout. Now, through her private practice, she offers a compassionate space for women to reconnect with their values and embrace change with curiosity and courage. In today's episode, we'll talk about how to get unstuck from negative thought patterns and the importance of self-care. It's not just a buzzword, but a radical act of self-respect. So whether you're on a walk, driving, or simply taking a quiet moment for yourself, I invite you to pause, breathe, and join us for this heart-centered conversation on growth, resilience, and the freedom that comes from truly nourishing your soul. So thank you so much for being here today, Michelle. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Kathy.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, you had shared that your path to becoming a therapist wasn't linear, that you were running from yourself in a way before finding alignment. Can you tell us about that turning point for you?
Yeah, there's a particular night specifically that comes to mind when I think of that turning point. I was living out of state. I was in a relationship that wasn't a fit, and it was Halloween. So many crazy things happen on Halloween, right? But this one was ultimately for the better. And things just added up in a way where I cracked. I knew that I was not in a life that was for me anymore. I felt so alone and isolated from all the things that mattered most to me, just really disconnected physically from the people I love, emotionally, all the pieces. And so that next morning I woke up and I opened my computer and I started Googling grad schools. And I know it's seemingly a stretch from this hardship and challenge in a relationship to, okay, solve it by going to grad school. No, it wasn't that. It's that I've always loved people and connection. And I always knew that I wanted to be a therapist, but again, I ran from it. And so that was my way back to me. And in doing that, I moved back to my home state of California and I got out of that relationship and I got into grad school. And so that was really my journey of coming back to me.
Oh, wonderful. And through that adversity, you triumphed. And how did your personal journey influence the way you show up for your clients now?
Significantly. I really prioritize helping people feel seen and heard and valued. I think that is something that in my personal journey I recognized I needed. And so I really work to make sure that I show up in that sort of way for other people. It's all about recognizing someone else's unique challenges and where they want to be and where they want to go, and then being able to support them. I'm much more of I'm going to walk alongside you through this mess because I certainly don't have it all figured out. I'm not going to pretend that I do. And yeah, leading with empathy, not hierarchy. I'm right there with you. I'm in it.
Oh, wonderful. And you mentioned walking alongside of them, and every woman has their own unique journey. And you tend to specialize in helping women through identity shifts of not feeling enough. What are some common themes you see emerging in those struggles today?
As far as common themes, it's interesting because I don't know if it's a theme as much as it's a culprit. And it's interesting because we just had a quick chat about social media. But for me, that really is where so much of the not enoughness and this perfectionism stems from. I think we are overexposed as a whole to everybody else's life or the version of their life that they want us to see. And then we get stuck in those comparison cycles, and that just perpetuates this impossible bar. And then we aim to achieve whatever that is. And then when we do, it continues on this cycle of not enoughness because we really just don't get satisfied in that sort of way. So, yeah, I think social media is a big part of it. And I can even speak personally at the start of my motherhood journey, consuming so much social media made me feel as though, oh, I'm getting more informed and I can do this better. But really, it just created, again, this like impossible standard. And so, somewhere in there, I think we all start to lose our connection with our gut. And yeah, so I would have to say social media is the culprit or the theme.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. As you mentioned, we just had that conversation. And I know when people, whether they're trying to detox from social media, they tend to find themselves stuck in loops of negative thinking or behavior, but don't know where to start. What's the first step that they can take toward breaking free?
Noticing, noticing that we're in the loop. And I probably say this to an annoying degree in most of my sessions, but I love to highlight when I notice that my clients are building their awareness. I say, awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first step, really, because that's where we start to develop, our sense of power is when we notice that it's happening. We have way more influence and control. And then, of course, the next hope is by noticing, we create some space from it. And then with that space, we create choice, which is like, that's the yummy stuff, right? When we have choice, then we can sort of choose how we want to respond to something. And from there, then we can take a different action. But yeah, noticing.
Oh, that is so, that awareness and responding instead of reacting. Oh, such great wisdom there. And I know that you use ACT or acceptance and commitment therapy, DBT, dialectic behavior therapy. How do these approaches help someone move through self sabotaging patterns?
So acceptance and commitment therapy, the nugget there is that's where we work to make our actions align with our values. And values is a big part of my work. I bring that into most of my work because I think it's a great sort of north star in leading us where we want to go, getting in touch with our values. Those don't waver as much as some of, our the other parts of ourself, our identity, our thoughts, and those things. So that's acceptance and commitment therapy. And then dialectical behavior therapy is about holding change and acceptance. So sometimes we're in a position where we have to really reckon with the idea that two opposing truths exist at the same time, which is so tough. And from that, we develop mental flexibility. So I love those personally because I know that when I'm dysregulated, I want a tool. I don't want to do the deep insight work. I don't want to get existential. I want something to help me act in the way that I actually want to act. So I love those because I think they're a great toolbox. Just like pull on them, use them. And they can also be super complex. Like, let's not oversimplify them. But I think in the beginning, those are just really, really handy tools.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. To me, it's almost like a map where I'm not going through uncharted area. This map has been laid out and it's tried and true. I love that. I remember when I was active in my eating disorder, I had a lot of perfectionism and a lot of black and white thinking. So I'm curious, what role does self compassion play in changing old thoughts or behavior patterns?
Even hearing the word compassion, I have a physical response. It's warm and soft and inviting. I love just the word alone, self-compassion. I think that for me is working over time to create that association because of course before that it felt really lofty and far away. But I like to think of it as, for if we're familiar or not familiar with attachment theory, it's the idea that a child will develop within their parent a secure base. And in that they know they will be loved unconditionally, that they can go out and explore, they can take risks, they can be creative, but they come home and no matter what, they are loved and lovable. And for me, I think that self compassion is creating that home base inside, that secure base, that feeling of no matter what I do, doesn't mean I have to condone every behavior or I become complacent. It means that I'm going to love myself no matter what.
Oh, that's beautiful. That unconditional love and support. That gives you so much courage. And you mentioned awareness a bit ago. And I know that many people feel that understanding why they're stuck is not enough to change their behavior. And what tools do you use to help bridge the gap between insight into action?
It's so frustrating when that's not enough, right? Like when we know what we could do that would make it better, but we can't do it. Truthfully, I think so much of that is readiness, that we can't rush readiness. So sitting with the I want to do this and I know what I could do that would help me and I'm not ready. And when I am ready, I will make the change. But often I think there's a piece too where we have to get frustrated enough or sick enough of the current circumstance that it motivates us to make that change. But outside of that, I think it's also just doing it, allowing ourselves just to take an action, the permission to do it, to screw it up, to make it messy.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that kind of leads into my next question that I was going to ask because you describe yourself as a human first. And how do you personally define self care beyond that buzzword?
Self-care. Well, and human first, it's going back to that idea of I I'm in the thick of it too, and I'm figuring it out as we go. And I want to create a space where it's not about me figuring something out or fixing it. It's about making a place safe enough for somebody else to do that piece. So that's that human first part. And uh, beyond the buzzword, I think coming back to self-care is recognizing that when we can make it as intentional and tailored as possible, we have success in feeling cared for by ourselves. So we know more of the common ideas, and those have a place and a time. The bubble bath or the retreats or any of those, they are delicious. But I also think coming back to what do I need in this exact moment, and that might be I need to revisit that text and say, actually, never mind, I don't want to do this thing. Or it might mean I just chewed somebody out and I probably need to like sit down and drink some water or whatever it is, but really sort of checking in with ourselves and going, what is the smallest thing, the kindest thing I could do for myself in this exact moment? Not to make everything go away, but just to care for myself.
I love that because I think as you were mentioning, I think a lot of people think it's a retreat, it's a spa day. And when I was active in my eating disorder, said I don't have time for self care. So, what are some ways women can practice self care even when life is overwhelming, when it's chaotic?
My first encouragement would be to come back to the body, would be to check in, to really get in touch with ourselves, look under the hood and go, what do I need first? Because it is chaotic most of the time, right? And so what would be the thing right now that my body is telling me I need the most? And sometimes that's rest, and sometimes that's I do need more nourishment right now. Sometimes it's water, sometimes it's a step outside or to do some deep breaths. But I think our body is a pretty good thermostat when we can learn to tune into it. So I would start there.
Beautiful. And getting back to that, you've mentioned breath work, writing, connecting with nature. What makes these practices so grounding for you?
Mm. Nature specifically, I the taller the tree, the more vast the body of water in front of me, it's the more grounding it is to me. And I think, truthfully, it's because I need I need to get outside of myself, but I also need to reduce my significance. Like my anxiety gets so big, or my ego gets so big, or whatever it is that gets so big when I'm in these places. It just reminds me of how small and, to some degree meaningless a lot of it is. So I love that for nature. Writing is phenomenal. It's that processing outward. There's so many times where I write, and at the end of it, I think to myself, oh, that was in there that whole time. And I think for that same reason, sometimes I avoid it, unfortunately, because there's probably, the emotional labor that's associated with it, but it's always rich and rewarding when I can do it. Yeah. And then what was the other one I put on there? I don't remember. Was it?
It was nature and a breath work and
Oh,
writing.
and breath work. Yes, of course, of course. Right? Thank goodness that we don't have to remember to breathe, that we just do it on our own, because otherwise I don't know if I would get to it. But yes, breath work, when we're intentional about it, that for me, it's the ultimate reset. That's getting me back online and making choices, from a really responsible place, and not being as reactive, which that breath work is really such a beautiful thing. If I can remember to do it more often, I would.
I, amen to that. I agree with you. I wish I had made more time for breath work as well. I'm really curious about your work with postpartum changes and identity shifts. What are some of the emotional, mental challenges that go unseen during those transitions?
hmm hmm I just came from leading a mommy and me group, and this is so much of what we talk about is the mental load, all the things that we are thinking about automatically and that weigh us down. And in that way, it's hard to communicate just how much we automatically anticipate. It's really cumbersome. And then, in being able to share that, how do I go about delegating or letting go of control? And it's sort of a complicated piece in that way. But the mental load, and then one of the things that I think also stands out is how much grief shows up in any of these different transitions. And it usually shows up differently at first. Like, we don't know that it's grief right away, right? Like it's anger, or it's frustration, or it's depression. But without knowing exactly what it is, we can't target it and heal in the right way. And unfortunately, I think as a society, we just get bogged down with all this messaging. Grief, it gets sort of told, replace the loss, or, you be lucky that you had it this way, or, be grateful for this sort of thing. And so I think that in order to heal grief, we need to understand what grief is. And there's so much grief and change because there's usually a loss accompanied with it.
Oh, and I'm curious, how can partners, spouses, or even just communities in general better support mothers or women in this transition?
I love that that question is being asked. I think that's so important, just to bring attention to it. There are so many things. I think there's the logistics side, and then there's the emotion side that I'm drawn to. And with the emotion piece, my encouragement, my invitation would be to notice the desire to fix or solve, especially as moms are going through a transitional period where it's really hard for them, and they're struggling, and really they're evolving, they're finding their footing. But our job isn't to fix or to remove the hardship, or to like stop having it be so hard. It's about witnessing. So many of us, we just want to feel witnessed and seen, that this is hard and it's messy, and I don't know up from down right now, and I'm not looking to be fixed, but to have a shared experience in that sort of way. So I think that's really, really helpful.
Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, that is, and through this transition, we don't have enough time for ourselves. And you've said that when for mothers, therapy can be liberating. And what does it look like in the context of motherhood and womanhood today?
In therapy, often it's a place where we start to hear ourselves. And the beauty of being in that dynamic with somebody else is you can also hear it through the therapist, right? And so it's an opportunity where the therapist can reflect back, hey, here are the patterns that I'm noticing, or specifically in this time of transition, there are so many roles and rules that we find ourselves in. And in therapy, it's an opportunity to go, is this working for me anymore? Or is that even true anymore? So we get to start to question it when we hear it and we get some space from it. And I think a lot of the time I have women sit in front of me and think to themselves, or say out loud, that like the can'ts and the shoulds show up. Like I could never make that career change, or I can't ask that of my husband. And I really am so grateful when I have the opportunity to say, yeah, you can. Or why? Why is that? Why are we holding on to that? Is that even true anymore? So yeah, having the ability to start to question things is liberating.
And often when we're starting to question, we're leaving our values, right? When we're saying, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And you often help women rediscover their values, as you mentioned, their North Star. And what is that connection between values and lasting change?
When we're in touch with our values, when we know what those are, and there's so many ways to get clear on that, whether it's through therapeutic work, or journaling, or noticing what isn't working. I really love that idea. So when we start to become aware of those, uh, then it's an opportunity where we know that we can hone in on what matters to us most and create action based on that. So otherwise, what I typically see happening is I work with a lot of women who are people pleasers, or they were peacekeepers in their family of origin. And so they've essentially develop this kind of pseudo self, this performative self that keeps everything running smooth. And then there comes a point where usually they'll come into therapy, and it's wanting support, though they're wanting support around the symptoms. Like, this isn't working for me anymore, or this isn't feeling good, or I want someone to respond in this sort of way. And it kind of just becomes like whack-a-mole, like when we're trying to figure out how to solve all those little problems. And I don't mean little in a dismissive way. It's if we can scale out and go, what is it that you truly want for yourself, and create these more foundational changes, which when we act on our values, we usually are really true to ourselves and coming from a more authentic place. So being able to come back to that, widen the view, I think it creates longer lasting change that's in alignment with what we want.
Absolutely. I cannot agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm curious, especially when you're first working with someone who's just entering therapy, and there's the people pleasing, the perfectionism. How do you encourage your clients to stay present and grounded when their life it feels to them that it's uncertain or out of control?
Yeah. Well, it always is, right? Like, that's true too. The myth of us having control over everything, or there being any actual certainty, or even safety outside of ourselves, all of that, it's really in here. So I think our power is in our presence. Our power is when we are embodied and conscious in what we're doing and what we want. And it's when we step into, perfectionism or any of those other roles, then we become disconnected, as I mentioned. And so coming back into our power through presence, it gives us, like I said, a choice. It gives us space. It gives us the ability to be more intentional about how we want to move forward.
So true, and you can do that every single moment. And one thing that I've noticed just by talking with you these last few minutes is you are very hopeful. You speak very openly about hope. And what gives you hope in your work and basically in just humanity in 2025?
So many things give me hope, and that's by choice, right? Sometimes I have to look for it extra hard. I think even my knee jerk reaction, I go to my clients, like, what is more hopeful than being able to witness people showing up day after day, willing to sit in the hard, to look at what they want to change, and then to go for it week after week after week. I that to me, I I know it's cliche and maybe even kind of corny, but it really is a privilege that I am so inspired and filled with hope by so many of the people that I see. Uh, yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. And for any listener out there feeling stuck, weighed down by self doubt, what's one message you want them to take away from this conversation?
I would want them to take away that they are lovable, that they are worthy, that they deserve to take up all of their space, to explore all of their choices, and that they are deserving of true happiness and a life that's in alignment with their values.
Oh, Michelle, that is beautiful. And how can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your work?
Yeah. So my website is a good place to start. That's Michelle Kelly, Kelly, therapy.com. So you can visit me there and it sort of lists out what I'm doing at any given moment. I have a new moms group opening up next month. I do presentations throughout the community. So those will be posted there, some podcasts, some mommy and me workshops. And yeah, it's all listed right there. And then, of course, I'm also on Instagram and wisely. We use it wisely, right?
Yes.
And that's at Michelle Kelly Therapy as well.
Oh, Michelle, thank you for sharing your warmth, your honesty, your insight with us today. Your story is just a beautiful reminder that real transformation begins when we stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking what do I need right now? And go back to those values. And to our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, know that you're not alone. Growth takes time, it takes compassion, and a willingness to show up for yourself, even when it feels hard. And you are going to be able to learn more about Michelle's work in the show notes below as she helps women rediscover their strength and rewrite those rules that no longer serve them. So thank you for tuning in to Freedom to Nourish. Remember, healing isn't about perfection, it's about connection. So until next time, be gentle with yourself, keep making peace with food, your body, and your story. Thank you so much.
If you're ready to step into a kinder, fuller life, subscribe now and join me each week for Freedom to Nourish. Because your body deserves respect, your story deserves to be heard, and you deserve to live fully right now.